Assistant City Manager for the Creedmoor. Oh, we are recording, right? So everybody, please be aware of that. We're going to be recording this, and we will be recording the individual breakout sessions when the groups get split up. So first things first, thank you all for being here. Steering committee meeting for Creedmoor 2040. We have 3 focus groups. One is housing and transportation. Then we have downtown and economic development. And then we have stormwater and open space. So you all, if you've been a steering committee member, a planning board member, a board of commission member, you've been assigned to one of those groups, and you will automatically be placed there when the time is right for that. But it's not just yet. We're going to start off with just a little bit of intro beforehand. And then those of you who can, we're going to come back and do a little bit more discussion at the end. But again, thank you all for taking the time out of your day, and I will turn it over to Jay McLeod with Stuart.
Thanks, Mike. Welcome everyone. It's great to be here. I'm Jay McLeod with Stuart, and joining me tonight from Stuart are Andrea Radford, Jaquacia Colon, and Ben Cotton. Also on the project team is Kenny Armstrong from JM Teague Engineering. And so we'll be joining you all in the focus groups and helping to facilitate the meeting. As Mike mentioned, this is part of the comprehensive plan update for the city of Creedmoor. It's not something a community does every year, so we're very excited to have so many people involved. And we're excited tonight to be here with some subject area experts to help share some knowledge, answer some questions, and help hammer out the recommendations that have been drafted for inclusion in the plan. As we get started, I just wanted to reiterate, we are going to be recording. If you do have video capability, please turn on your video so we can see each other. And if you would all please take a second to type your name into the chat window and hit enter so we can get a capture of who's here. I would appreciate that, and I'll kick it off. Thank you. So we have a mix of steering committee members, planning board members, and commissioners, as well as staff, Stuart consultants, and subject area experts from different groups around the region that have influence and knowledge of the Creedmoor area. So the kind of format today is we're going to just kind of talk about briefly why we're here, split up into those breakout groups that Jaquacia is currently organizing according to the meeting invite and the list that you had previously. Hear from a subject area expert in that breakout group, ask them any questions that we can, or start some discussion and kind of start to talk about the future of Creedmoor and where we should go. And then if things start slowing down, we'll start going into the recommendations one by one and just kind of making sure that we hammer those out. And each group is being tasked with essentially examining and refining the recommendations for 2 of the chapters in the final plan document. With that, I'm going to go ahead and get started with a brief PowerPoint presentation. So give me 1 second to kind of reshape a few things here. Can everyone see a big PowerPoint cover page?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this process was started back in September, I believe. So we're going to kind of, like I said, kind of talk about where we're headed today. But basically, these are the steps that we're going to go through. We did the roll call. I guess I got ahead of myself a little bit. If you'd be so kind in Zoom to change your name just by right-clicking on your picture to your real name, that helps. Sometimes it comes up as like, participant 3 or something. The comprehensive plan that we're helping the city of Creedmoor update is a document that's supposed to guide their growth over the next 10 to 20 years. Typically, communities update these every 5 to 7 years, and that might be a little long or a little short, depending on how fast you're growing and how fast things are changing. But the time horizon we're looking at with this plan is generally in the 10 to 20 year time frame. And it will cover these different components. And you'll see these kind of themes come across as we talk through the items tonight. To kind of refresh ourselves with what the city of Creedmoor actually has planning jurisdiction over. It's their city limits and their extraterritorial jurisdiction. And that's shown in the dark gray and the light gray. A lot of people apparently think that they live in Creedmoor because they have a zip code that goes along with it, or they get their mail from the city post office, but they don't necessarily. And so this is the area that we can actually have influence over as city commissioners and planning board members and community members helping to shape this plan. The plan development process is generally laid out like this. Like I said, we started back in September. We're hoping to wrap up in spring. We're kind of past the getting to know you and doing some analysis, and we're kind of in the drafting, hammering out recommendations and refining before we kind of deliver a draft plan for further public review. And then ultimately that goes to a public adoption and hearing process. The calendar kind of looks like this. We started out with an introduction to the commissioners in September, followed that with administrative kickoff meetings and a community tour. There was a public survey that ran for actually over a month. It says it closed on Halloween, but we actually kept it open until November 8th. There was a public meeting and a First Friday, and then a follow-up First Friday event that staff put on. We had our second committee meeting where we talked about vision and goals, and here we are kind of in the middle of the plan. And coming up soon, we're going to finish drafting the plan with the input from tonight, and then deliver that to staff for internal review. And then that'll get rolled out to the steering committee and the public. And then we'll take that information and from the information we gather from that input, refine the plan further. And then that'll be the document that heads towards the formal adoption process, which is also public review and hearings through the planning board and the board of commissioners. So a quick recap of how we got to where we are, and then we'll move into the focus groups. At the introduction to the city commissioners in September, we introduced who we are and what the plan update process was going to look like. The community tour was great. We had a long meeting with staff to kind of get the background on different subjects and hot topics and things that have worked and need work in the past 5 years and moving forward. And then we toured the community in a bus and got to see all the places that we talked about. So it was really great. And we got a good feel for the community and saw some of the great assets that are there. The first Friday was a rocking event, had a great DJ. And although it was a football game night, high school football game night, I think we had a pretty good turnout and got a lot of input from the people that were there. It was very enjoyable and kind of kicked off the public engagement and awareness of the survey. Staff followed up with a second First Friday event the next month. So that was kind of a step above and beyond staff went to kind of continue to raise awareness. We started out with our steering committee meeting where, like I said, we introduced the project to the steering committee, got to know each other, talked about what we'd heard so far and what we'd seen so far in the community tour, and then talked about what makes a great plan from each committee member's perspective. We had a lot of good input from that. The public survey, like I said, ran for over a month. We had almost 300 responses, and that generated a lot of discussion at the second steering committee meeting, where we reviewed those results, talked about themes that we saw and the steering committee members also picked up on, discussed what those might mean, and then use those to refine the draft vision and goals, which have been distributed and then refined based on input. And then we considered kind of preliminary recommendations. Here's that updated community vision and goals and what that's going to look like kind of as we move into the document. And if we haven't distributed that already, we will immediately after this meeting. And that's brought us to kind of the preliminary recommendations revolving around these subject areas that you see on the left, and the development of a draft future land use map, which is actually a refinement of the current and proposed future land use map that was kind of worked on previously by the city staff. It's been kind of molded and mashed up a little bit more, and very interested to hear your take on that as a community and what you think that means, but and how that can be refined further. But basically the future land use map is not regulatory, but it is somewhat pre-regulatory in that it is considered during rezoning and land use decisions by the planning board and the board of commissioners in their deliberations. So it's not the only point of information that they look to and to reference. but it is a point of information that they look to reference. And we hope that this, along with the character areas, kind of help define what the future of Creedmoor will look like in 20 years and where there are opportunities for growth, targeted growth, and where we can reinforce things like the downtown and the really special places that we have. And so that kind of brings us to the breakout group session. The way I want to kind of describe how this will look, but before I do, are there any questions about how we got to where we are now and what is it and how the plan development process is going to go? And if you do have any questions, it might be best to do the raise hand function, just since there are so many of us. Or if we get into the breakout groups, we can just be a little bit more informal. But since there are so many of us, we might need to use the raise hand function. Okay. Seeing no hands, virtual hands raised. I will continue. As Mike alluded to earlier, we're going to be in 3 simultaneous small group discussions. For those of you who haven't done this before, it's kind of fun. Just automatically, a little pop-up comes up on your screen that says you're going to go to a breakout group, and you can either go a little early or wait till it sends you on its own. In that breakout group, we're going to also be recording. So I want to remind the facilitators to hit record. And we'll be discussing those things we mentioned before. So we're going to start out with introductions from the facilitators, the speaker, and the attendees. And then we're going to hear from our subject area expert. Then there'll be question and answer for the speaker, open group discussion kind of after that. And if things slow down or they're not, or they're, there's a need for a little bit more structure, we might switch over and start talking about the recommendations that have been distributed prior and go through this one by one. And I would also encourage you, if you have previously read the draft recommendations and you have some that you definitely want to talk about, bring them up. It's we want it to be very collaborative and open. We want to share ideas and have a place to discuss ideas without, it being too, structured, I guess. We want to kind of explore what we can and talk about possibilities, because we're talking about the future of Creedmoor, and it's always a great topic. And you can dream a little bit. You have to be a little realistic sometimes, but for the most part, we can think big. And then after about 45 minutes or so, Jaquacia will recall us to the main conference room. We will kind of talk about the next steps, and then we'll conclude. And so thank you in advance for your time. And Jaquacia, I think you can go ahead and distribute us, please. Unless Mike has anything to add.
No, let's go ahead and get into our small group rooms, and then we can all talk more then.
Great.
All righty. We'll see everybody there. Now I'm just waiting on Jay to come back to the main group.
I was gonna say, this looks like our group again. We're just in a different room.
Yep. He's the one that told me to pull us back in.
No, I know, you just listen too well. They're all probably still finishing up and talking, and then, oh, here some card popping up.
Awesome.
Hey, Chris, how did it go? You're muted.
There we go. You're gonna have to find a place for a Ferris wheel, a water park, and a go-kart track. So if you can start working on that.
That's what
We
Derek talked
promised
about.
them all that
go-kart
kind of
tracks?
stuff. We want one of those big eyes they've got in London.
Awesome.
Did you tell about the drone course I wanted to put out
Yeah,
there
that
too,
too.
Christopher?
We're not doing
Yeah.
fireworks anymore. We're gonna do a drone, drones instead. Have you seen where they do that now with all the 300 drones in the sky?
I would love that. I would pay big money to watch a drone show like that. I think that would be awesome. The kind of things that they can do.
That's cool. I hadn't heard of that.
Hmm. I'm all for it.
Well, I think we'll wait just a second to make sure everyone gets back. Jaquacia, can you hit the recall now button just in case, or is everyone still, did everyone make it?
Everyone is coming in, and they're coming in little by little.
We milked
Right.
it for as long as we possibly could. I think Kevin gave us 20 seconds, 15 seconds left before our room closed on us.
When you guys were talking, there was a lot of talking going on. You didn't want to stop?
We didn't want to stop. I did not want to stop. We've got, housing and transportation,
I believe it.
It's a great
They're hot
discussion.
topics.
Well, great. Well, thanks everyone for getting back, and thanks for your input into those subject areas. Really appreciate that. I know the group I was in had some good input in terms of tightening the screws on the recommendations and talking about the subject area. Thanks to our speakers who helped provide context and also create a bit of discussion and provided their insight and background on the different subject areas. As we move forward, our goal is to hope everyone has happy holidays for December 1st. In our office, we'll be working on the plan, writing and refining the plan with input we received tonight and working with staff on that. Looking forward to a public rollout of the plan at a February 4th, tentatively. That's still a tentative date, possibly at a First Friday event if those are still happening. We got to check in with Creedmoor on that and talk about space. The steering committee meeting would follow that later in February, where we would have some gathered and bring that forward to steering committee and see how they think that information should change the plan. And then we're looking forward to bringing that information forward in March and April tentatively to the planning board and board of commissioners respectively through the public adoption process. Thank you again for all the notes and everything that we got and input tonight. And Mike, do you have anything to say before we kind of close up shop?
I just wanted to offer up to everybody that honestly, if there's something you still want to talk about or something you feel you didn't get an appropriate opportunity to talk about, please send emails out. Even now, you could be working in the chat if you wanted to, because all that's going to be recorded. Certainly, please send me an email or a phone call. We can discuss more. And then what I'd like to ask you all to do during this next month or so of free time is venture in and review the recordings of the other two sessions that you weren't a part of. Because I know in my session too, I think some really good information got transmitted, and you know, everybody wants to know the answers to the Saguaso questions. But I am really curious about the drone effect I want to know about, and then, you know, what the other groups went through and discussed too. So I know I'm going to look at those others, and I might have comments or questions that come up from that. And I will certainly, you know, share those with the staff and the folks at Stewart too. So you all definitely do that same thing. Nina has a question. She's raising her hand.
How do we look at the other sessions, the other focus groups?
they have to be edited and compiled, right? Kaisha, are you going to be able to handle that?
Yeah, the recordings are still processing. They're not done yet because we're still in the meeting. So we should hopefully have them up before Monday or by Monday.
Up where? Where do we go in this?
Oh, they'll be on the project website.
Okay.
Creedmoor2040.com, right, Kev?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Right,
I will
okay.
put those up on the project website.
Perfect,
If you're
thank
signed
you.
up for alerts, you'll get it. But I will, you know what I'll do is I'll go ahead and send out an email to everybody that was here tonight, just saying, hey, the recording is uploaded
Yep, when they are uploaded.
when they are uploaded.
Okay, thank
Still
you.
processing.
Yeah, it takes time for the processing, and I know, it'll get Kevin at least a day or so to get that up and have a link. So y'all could just go to the Creedmoor 2040 site and click on each of the links and see each of the other sessions.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Thanks
Well, I have-
again for your, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's all I have, Jay. We can feel free to wrap it up and let these people get on to the holiday season.
All right. Thank you all again so much for your time this evening. It really matters. It really makes the plan better, and you'll see that in the final document, I'm sure. Thank you so much for your time and have a great evening.
Appreciate everyone. Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks so much.